I'm visiting with Dr. Barry Black, chaplain of the U.S. Senate. God has given you some special gifts. He has given you gifts to be able to do this work and to be able to be considered for this work. One of those gifts is your ability to memorize. How do you do that?
Well, it is a gift. I discovered it when I was about 4 years of age. My oldest sister, Beverly, 4 years older than I, had to learn the Gettysburg Address. And she was doing it the old-fashioned way. 7 years ago, 7 years ago, 7 years ago, until it just about had driven me insane. And so I said, it can't be that difficult, and I started reciting it and realized that I knew the entire speech. So it was, at one point in the early days, almost photographic recall. The downside of that is you memorize a lot of stuff that you wish you hadn't.
I see.
Because you can't get it out of your head. And so I know a lot of Edgar Allan Poe short stories verbatim that I wish I didn't know. But the other great advantage is you remember what you hear and what you read. So the tremendous sermons that I heard growing up in a very wonderful church, Berea Temple Seventh-day Adventist Church in Baltimore, I still remember many of them word for word. And of course...
The sermons you heard only once?
Yes.
You know those word for word?
Yes.
Barry, that is a special gift.
Yes, it is. And the reason why I was able to do so much academically while working full-time is, quite frankly, the American educational system can be mastered by memorization. Someone, unfortunately, said that it often involves the notes passing from the teacher's notes to the student's notes without going through the mind of either. But the point still is, memory comes in very handy. So it made school extremely easy.
You have a gift for wanting to learn, too.
Well, that's another thing, a lifelong desire to learn and to improve. A passion for God is a third critical thing that I had. I've always sought to be in His presence, even as a youngster, just this desire to be in His house. When we were at church on the weekends, I would actually hide, hoping that my family would leave me behind so that I could stay in the church and pray. Now, I mean, that is not exactly typical behavior for an 8 or a 9-year-old. We're trying to, these kids are usually trying to get out of the church, but I felt so much at home in my Father's house.
I guess we would call it a gift. You have wanted to read. You read a lot now.
I was a voracious reader, and I still read quite a bit. The motivation was not exactly very lofty initially. We did not have air conditioning in our home, and the Enoch Pratt Free Library on North Avenue in Pennsylvania did. And so I spent most of my summer days, those sultry summer days in Baltimore, in the air-conditioned comfort of the Enoch Pratt Free Library, which is still on North in Pennsylvania. And I went through the children's books and started reading more sophisticated books. And I was reading, for instance, at 9 and 10, Montaigne, Pascal's Ponces, and books like that. And the librarian would be coming by and said, "Little boy, what are you reading this for?" So it was a wonderful experience, and I learned so much sitting there in that library in the cool surrounding of air-conditioned comfort.
You're a busy man now. How many books do you read now?
Well, I cheat. I speed read, and probably about 3 to 4 books a week.
A week?
Yes.
If you look at a book such as your own autobiography, and you decided to read this now, about how long would a book like this take you?
A book of a couple of 100 pages would probably take me, I'd say, probably hour and a half. If I got on a plane for a short flight, I could be done with it by the time we landed.
And you read several books every week, even now, as a busy professional. God is allowing you to absorb a lot in your brain.
Oh, yes.
That, I suppose, is part of the reason why you're a sought-after speaker. God has asked you to preach in many places. It's one of the gifts you have. How many continents have you preached on?
Well, if you count Antarctica, where I preach from a Navy ship, I'd say most of them, I guess, are Asia, Africa, South America, obviously North America, Europe, and Australia. I've preached on each of those continents.
You were a pastor and preached, and then you were in the military. You preached in the military?
I preached in the military 5 or 6 times a week. I conducted Bible studies in the military on a daily basis. My 27 years as a Navy chaplain was a protracted honeymoon, and it was an opportunity to literally have a captive audience. I was a chaplain on a aircraft carrier, and there are 5,000 people on an aircraft carrier. That's a wonderful church to have. So I preached all over the world as I sailed on Navy vessels.